Hello, everybody. Welcome back to WINK-CBS Live. We're here at the famed Luminary Hotel in historic downtown Fort Myers, and so thrilled to have here on the show the Superintendent Interim of the Lee County School District, Dr. Kenneth A. Savage. Welcome to WINK-CBS Live again.
Pleasure to be here, Lee.
I always struggle to remember to say interim. Right, last time you were on the show was what, about 3 years ago, 2, 3? You were interim then.
2.5. Yes, I was.
The interim guy.
That's right. That's right.
You know, when I first saw that you were appointed to be the interim, I read it in the paper. Of course, it was breaking news. I said to myself, he must have done a good job in the past to get repeat business, in a sense. And what's your thoughts on just that general concept of people having confidence in you for what you did in the past?
It's a privilege, really. It's a true honor when people think of you and they want to give you the tremendous responsibility that it is. And that's what it is. To me, it's like being a shepherd for an entire school district. I take great pride in the fact that this is the place where I grew up. My whole family has pretty much worked in this system in one way or another, and a lot of former educators in my family, and it's just a privilege to honor the work that they've done day in, day out, and their kids who've gone through our system. My kids are in our system, and the community where I grew up, everybody's kids. It's a tremendous privilege, and I just love it.
Well, take us back, though, to 1 minute you minding your own business, going through your, where are you at the school district?
Yeah, so prior to being the interim this time around, I was serving in Dr. Bernier's team as a chief strategy officer. So it's a lot of big picture, strategic plan, trying to really focus the district around achieving better outcomes for all kids. And then I got a surprise call on the weekend, and they said, would you be willing to serve in this capacity again? And you know, we knew that Dr. Bernier was planning to move on to other work, and so it was a surprise. But I was honored for that call, and so it's been great. You
mentioned that you were part of the strategic team,
yep.
So it wasn't like you had to start from scratch. I think that's one of the beauties of it. Can you speak to that?
Yes, yeah. So the whole team that was in place is still in place. We have the same people. The only difference was at the top, you know, in terms of that role. But one of the things we tried to do is make it a little bit less about the superintendent and a little bit more about just in general the entire leadership team. So me being a part of that team and knowing the strengths of those individuals, we could take whatever progress we were already making and continue that, but also someone who knows the inside already. Whereas if you hire someone who is not from the team, it takes 6 months before they even know the people. And so for me, it was an honor because I knew the people, I knew it was working, and you also know the challenges that we were already working on.
Mm-hmm. Well, this being your second time around as the interim, mm-hmm. What can you take from the first time as interim and that benefits you now?
Well, I would say probably three things jump right to mind. The first is, the first time around, you don't know what you don't know. And so even though you're around it, you think you know, you really find out just by experience. And so for me, that was a huge thing, was just I'm much more experienced in I know what I'm walking into. The second thing that I really learned was to just really slow down, speak the truth, and speak with love in the people I deal with. Because the third thing is really it's all about people and relationships. In leadership, it's real easy to get focused on the system and the complexity of trying to serve over 100,000 students, over 12,000 employees. But leadership is really all about people. Mm-hmm. And so just trying to be the best man I can, the best leader I can, is really about me challenging myself to be the best person I can be. And that gives me the strength to be able to lead with integrity, to be able to serve the group, all the people that are depending on me. If you think of the school district, it's like a giant upside down pyramid. All the people up here, the students and the families we serve, and then all the teachers that serve them, all the principals that serve those folks, central office, at the very bottom of that pyramid is me and the school board. Mm-hmm. We have to carry the weight of that responsibility on our shoulders. And that is what I live with every single day. So it's a huge amount of responsibility, and the only way that you have the strength to be able to handle that is if you really understand who you are, and you lead with, in my mind, that love and truth. That's how you have to approach every day. On
the day that we're taping this show, this morning, you gave the state of the school address here in Lee County.
That's right.
What was the key thing that came out of there? So let me do this.
Yeah.
Superintendent Dr.
Yeah, Dr. Ken Savage, that's right.
Dr. Savage.
Yes.
What is the state of the Lee County School District?
We have so many things to be proud of. But we have three major challenges that I called out in that state of schools. One is declining overall academic performance over the last 13 years. It's been a dramatic drop from where we were to where we are today. And we can't run from that. We have to embrace the fact that our performance has declined because that is our core business. Now, why that has declined is a very complex way to answer. You probably don't have time for me to go into all the detail of why. But one thing that contributes to it, which is probably the second item that I'd bring up, is and the biggest problem facing our district right now, is our teacher shortage. We have, over the last few years, we have recruited, we've had record years of recruitment, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of teachers we've recruited, banner years in recruitment. The problem is we're losing far more than we recruit. So in spite of the fact that we've set our own internal records over the last 3 years of the amount of teachers we've recruited, we've also lost record numbers, and that number exceeds that. So when you come out, it's not even breaking even. So we are way under where we need to be from a teaching position standpoint. The problem when you're short that many teachers is that you don't, when parents are sending their kids to school, there isn't necessarily a teacher for every classroom. And that puts stress on the rest of the system. Now you've got to have substitutes. You've got to have other teachers covering that. You've got to have teachers working without a planning period. It's all these challenges that come. We had to change the bell schedule so we could accommodate, need fewer teachers. It's all these things.
And
very
other
complex.
other districts have the same problem.
Absolutely. Now, some districts, some more than others, right? Some districts, they're losing students to private schools and charter schools in high numbers, and so they're actually closing schools. So they're not hit quite as bad as we are. But you have other districts just like us, and we're a growing district, so that makes it even harder because more people are coming to our district, and many families are still choosing us, and so it just makes it what was already a hard situation even harder. And then the third thing is just what's happening inside the schools. We've had a huge increase in the number of behavioral incidents and current disruptive behavior, students being insubordinate, things like that. I mean, let's just be real. As a nation, as a whole world, we've been through an awful lot these last few years with the hurricane, for us the hurricane, but before that the pandemic. We're just a different society today than what we were. And that's been hard on our families. It's been hard on people. And so we have to really look in the mirror and figure out what we can do. And again, we're not alone in this. This is all over the whole country. But what can we do to try to support our students and our families so that we have the proper conditions where all students can learn?
Okay, you just laid out a whole lot of big Herculean things that
That's right.
almost, I want to be optimistic, but some of it seem insurmountable. But at the early stages, what are some first steps forward? Say, for example, I know you're ongoing recruiting teachers. Right now, you can make the pitch. Hey, we got jobs. We need teachers. Yes. We need all types of educators, and then the discipline thing. So. What's the way forward?
Yeah. Well, again, because these are complex challenges, there's no easy solution. Right. Otherwise, someone would have fixed it by now, right? But the way we approach it is, number one, not alone. We start with partnerships. So when we're trying to attract more teachers, we got to look at all the higher ed institutions that are producing or potentially producing teachers. And so we're partnering with them. We're trying to incentivize people who, whether they go through Southwest Florida College, whether they go through FGCU, we have partnerships with all of our local higher eds, as well as even some higher eds on the other side of the state, even internationally. So we've got a number of those programs, but we also are trying to grow our own teachers. So we've got teacher education academies in some of our schools, and we'd like to expand that. Yes, because we want to grow our own. That's one of the challenges we have, is not just that we don't have teachers, but we want to increase the diversity of our teacher workforce, because right now we are a majority Hispanic student population in Lee County in terms of student population, but yet we have only about 13% of our teachers are Hispanic. And yet we know, like for example, one of the communities within Lee County, Lehigh, we know that we have a significant amount of Hispanic students, and we want to be competitive by encouraging more of them to choose education. Because when kids have a teacher in their school that looks just like them, that helps them understand all the possibilities that lie in front of them. And we need the teachers. So we're doing everything we can to incentivize people to choose to move to Lee County. We're doing things to grow our own, and we're doing things to partner with higher ed. And that's just one example.
But we're constantly hearing in the news about the word diversity, equity, and inclusion. Are we able to say that out loud? Am I going to get in trouble? I mean, is the governor going to come and get me?
Well,
I mean, you just said the word diversity on television.
That's right. We are allowed to say the word diversity. I understand that it's a whole new day. I get it. But I would say diversity, all that really means is differences. And the reality is people have differences. We're at different ages. We have different ethnicities, different races, different belief systems, different in so many different ways. But our differences as a society is really, in my opinion, our greatest strength. It's the differences of, the difference between my wife and I helps us better raise our children. The difference of the people on my leadership team give me different ideas that help me better lead the district. The differences in our student population give us different perspectives that if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be as effective as we are today, and we wouldn't continue to grow and get better if we didn't have those different perspectives. So the word diversity truly it just means differences. And I embrace that term because it really does make us stronger. It's our greatest strength.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the new proximity, something a little less base school assignments.
Sure.
What should we know about that now?
Yeah, so we just went through our elementary proximity plan. It's amazing. It basically kept our choice program, which we are one of the only districts in the whole state of Florida that allows people to choose multiple schools, and we will provide bus transportation to those schools. In the past, though, it was pretty inefficient. We had a student, for example, in the middle of Lehigh. They could choose 17 different elementary schools, and we would bus them to all 17. Well, while that sounds great, it's very expensive to do that. And that's money that we put into transportation that we could be paying teachers, we could do a lot of other things with it. So one of the best moves we made was moving to a smaller boundary system, and that we did this year. We implemented it. We've been working on that for many, many years. And so we finally implemented it, and it's been very successful. Most parents got their choice that they wanted. We just reduced it. So maybe now instead of 17 choices, they have 5 or 6 choices. Mm-hmm. We're still transporting. It's still a lot
of choices.
It is, and that's more than anybody else does.
It's crazy.
Nobody has that amount of choice. So we do it. It's part of Lee County. This year, we're rolling out the middle school choice plan. So we did the same thing for middle schools. They still have great program choices, but we do it a little bit more efficiently, and that just allows us to free up resources to put it more to our kids.
Mm-hmm. The sales tax.
Yes.
In Franklin Park Elementary School.
Yeah.
That great new school coming out of the ground, and an oasis in the Dunbar community. Mm-hmm. Sales tax works, huh?
Yeah, well, this particular sales tax, we just really thank the voters. It's not the district's tax. That is the voters of Lee County chose to do that. We are just the beneficiaries of that community trust. That's really the community's investing in their school buildings. They recognize that we, unlike many districts in Florida, like for example Broward, they're shutting schools. Duval's closing schools. A lot of districts, these major metropolitan, they're closing schools right now. We have the opposite issue. We need more schools. We have to keep building them. We can't keep up with the level of growth. So the community thankfully supported that and gave us that show of faith that allowed us to build, and Franklin Park is a perfect example. That's a sales tax funded project. The first ever in our community school. This isn't just a school. So Franklin Park, we were always going to rebuild that school at one point or another. But we've taken this opportunity. We applied for some grants. We did some incredible things. So with the gifts of the legislature as well, we now have a community school at Franklin Park that's going to open this August that has embedded services from the United Way and Lee Health, a health clinic, built in it to support pediatrics and families with all sorts of amazing services. Right there in the heart of the community, a true community school.
Every time I read about it and seen the different things that are going to be a part of that school, it seems to me that it's like some type of prototype for the future. Yeah. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, so I actually am, I don't want to take the credit because it's a whole partnership to do it, but I had just come back to the district after working at the state executive level, and there was a grant that we could apply for to do this project. And I saw it, and because I worked in Tallahassee, I knew this was something that had both bipartisan support. Both Republicans and Democrats came together to support this community school model. So I knew there was money behind it. And I said, folks, we have to go after this. But we only had a week to apply. So I reached out to Lee Health, I reached out to United Way, because they actually had to be our partners to co-apply with us. Graciously, they did it. They took on that lead role, and we got it. And so once we got it, it's amazing. And to see it all come to fruition now, they will always kind of highlight those calls, because I was embarrassed to even ask them, but I knew how important it was to this community. And so I'm so grateful to have been a critical part of starting it. And then they just took it and ran with it, and they kept going. And now here we are today.
Well, I want to publicly thank you.
My pleasure.
For doing that. And I'm looking forward to bringing the Lee Pitts Live television show into that magnificent facility.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for you to be in that school. I just wait till you see. I've already been in. I got my shoes all dirty because it's still a construction site, but it is going to be incredible, Lee.
Shout out to Dr. Meyer German, the principal there,
right.
or is it Mia?
Mia.
Get me on
Mia.
that.
Yeah.
And she was recently selected a Lee Pitts Live Person of the Year. That you didn't, we'll get you information on that.
Oh,
so
congratulations! That's incredible.
She received her award in front of about 200 people at our gala a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, that's awesome, Lee. Thank you so much for sharing that.
And we're looking forward to having her in that leadership role. When people think about the Lee County School District as we sit today, what do you want to come to their mind?
Well, I think for us, when I had to step into this superintendent role for the second time, I will just say, I realized how integral we are to this community. We are building the future of Lee County. We are building the future every single day. So it's not just the school district, it's the whole community. We work for the community. We build the future every single day, and we cannot do it alone. I want people to be proud of the fact that they live in this community and that we need their support in any way they can, whether it's volunteering, whether it's coming to work with us, whether it's partnering with us. We cannot do this work alone. The strength of our partnerships that we have with people, and it's just people. It could be normal people who just have a little bit of time. It could be businesses. It could be whatever they're willing to bring to us. We need it. We need it because the future is all of ours together, and we're just trying to contribute to that future for this community.
And when we talk about the future, always, to me, parents play an integral role in the education of their children. I'm a parent now, and I know the high responsibility of that. What should parents be doing right now? What are two things that you were honing in on?
Well, for our parents, part of it is we want them to be connected with us, and we have tools to try to make that easier because we understand parents are busy. They don't always have time to come to school. They don't have time to do a whole lot of extra things. So we have two tools that we've set up. One thing is that we want to make sure our parents have a focus account because we know back in the day we used to send printed report cards, things like that. Now parents can have that information 24/7 by logging into their focus account. That gives them all the details they need about their student, including if they're up to date in their immunizations, all those things. So it's a great one-stop shop for them to at least be able to check on how their child is doing anytime they want. The second thing is just to have a school messenger account. There's so much going on in our school district, so many opportunities, so many things we're trying to do to help support not just kids, but the entire family, that school messenger is our primary means of communicating with families. So we want to make sure that if they are a parent in our system, that they have both of those things and that they feel comfortable to use them, just as basic tools.
Going back to school choice, as I don't know if that's the name of it in Lee County, but in general, school choice that you're talking about. In choosing a school, you and I have talked about this off camera. The first thing that people go to, generally speaking, is what is the grade of the school?
That's right.
Now, I do think that would be a common thing. That would be a normal reaction, for human reaction. I want to put my kid in an A school because I think that's the best for the school, for the kid's education. Are you here to say that shouldn't be the way you go about choosing a school? That could be one of the factors, but there are many other factors.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, Lee. So our state grades all the schools. And it's information, I think it gives you some information, but I would say I've had the chance, because I worked as a state executive, I've worked in a number of districts, and I know how the school grade is calculated. That school grade does not tell the whole story. It just does not. It doesn't tell you the totality of leadership, of teaching, the quality of teaching, the quality of systems. It doesn't measure that. That's not what it measures. It strictly measures performance, and that's all it's measuring is student performance. So it really is more of a reflection of often the community that's being served, and it doesn't shine a light on the tremendous value that is being generated by the people who are working in that building. Mm-hmm. So the best way that I've found to know if it's a school is to go visit it, to go visit some classrooms, to feel how you feel when you walk in. Because I've seen A schools and I've seen C schools, and some of these C schools are far more effective than some of the A schools. Mm-hmm. And so you really can't judge a school by its grade alone. You just can't. It's something that it's a start, but until we have a completely accurate accountability measure system that really shows the value being added by some of these schools, it doesn't tell the whole story.
You're going to be the interim superintendent for about 6 months.
That's right.
People are looking at you right now saying, well, why isn't he running to be the superintendent? Your answer to them is what?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you even asking that question. This is my second go around, right? So I know what I'm doing, and 6 months is plenty. It's an act of service the first time, where I did it for about a year, and it's an act of service again doing the 6 months. But unlike someone who's never done this job, I know exactly what the job entails, and I know how challenging it is and what it demands from me, and to do it the right way. And so for me, I wouldn't be doing myself, my family, or the community service to take on any more than these 6 months. That's the best I can do. But I will say I encourage the community as they look up to this election to make sure you really go and select the most qualified person. So you look at those candidates, understand what they bring to the table, understand their qualifications, because it's a very important job to be the superintendent of schools in this county, and to have it for 4 years. If you pick the wrong type of candidate, that can set a community back a great deal. And so in my opinion, you really want to make sure you get the most qualified person, and that is up to our voters. And I trust that our voters will make a good decision for this community. It's not a new thing. I will say in our state, more than half the districts are run by elected superintendents, and we elect our sheriff, we elect in the city of Fort Myers, we elect our mayor, and many other officials. And so I would just say, kind of leaning on that, my hope is that the voters, and I believe the voters will, take it very seriously, look at those candidates, and pick the best possible person for the district moving forward.
So on balance, you, based on what you're saying, do you think the best way to get a superintendent of a district of this size is for that person to be elected?
You know, I've seen both systems work. It's because when I worked at the state level, I worked with more elected systems up there, whereas my prior work history was mostly in appointed systems. So I was kind of surprised about the elected systems when I first met them, but what I found were that both had tremendous examples of successful people. We had some of our longest tenured superintendents in the state that were elected. They were routinely getting elected over and over again. So you got up to 12 years in some cases, folks were doing it. And then in appointed systems, we also had some incredible appointed superintendents in our state that were remarkably successful. I mean, you think Collier to the south, I mean, they had an appointment that when that particular superintendent, Cam Patton, came into Collier County, they were below the state average. They were actually below Lee County. We were an A district. They were a B district. By after her first year, they flipped to be an A and a B. And then for the next 10 plus years, they became one of the top performing districts in the state. So I've seen both succeed. It really is about the person, not the method. So however you do it, I think both can work. But I just encourage people to really be informed. As voters, that's our obligation for all of our elected official roles. And this one is just as important, if not, personally, I'm a little biased, more important than some of our other elected roles.
Well, Interim Superintendent Dr. Savage, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show again.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to see you again too, Lee.
And hopefully we'll get you back before your interim runs out.
Thank you, sir.
It's always a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Remember, Miami might have the oranges, but the Lee County School District
has the juice.
Has the juice. We'll see.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.
Hello everybody, this is Lee. I'm so glad that you watched that particular show, and if you enjoyed that show, we got other shows like that. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch Lee Pitts Live on demand anytime, and also hit us up on all our social media platforms. Just type in Lee Pitts Live, and there you go.